Hey everyone, welcome. Welcome to our third and final Ignite of this semester. Remember, as you come in, please make sure your camera is on. We want to see your faces, and that is how you get points, is by making sure you are engaging during this session. Remember, for Ignites, we have a portion where we're going to hear from somebody and also a portion for Q&A. So start storing up those questions now as you hear him talk, so you are ready to ask away when we open up for questions. I see many of you are already getting started with the poll. So we do have a poll up here. We've got a number of questions in here. The first one is, which of these do you think happens most often on the road to success? So the first option is slow and steady steps that lead to progress. The second is setbacks that teach lessons. The third is unexpected opportunities. And the fourth is all of the above. Right now, we have in the lead slow and steady steps. And the lowest one, actually, with only one person saying it so far, is unexpected opportunities. So curious to see where this will land as more people answer. The second one is, where are you at in your entrepreneurial journey? The options are, I have an idea for starting a business. I'd be interested in starting one. I already started a business. I'm currently running one, or I have no interest in starting one. And of course, things always change. It's just about where you're at right now today. The next question here is, when you fail at something, how do you usually respond? We talk about this a lot in Youth Champions, is how do you respond to failure? So there's a few options here. One option, and I love that people are being candid because I want to know what you actually think. The first option is give up and move on. The second is try the same thing again. The third is change my approach and try differently. And the fourth is ask someone for advice. Question 4 here is, which skill do you think will help you most when facing unexpected challenges? Adaptability, patience, problem solving, confidence, all great things, but curious which one you think will help you most when facing unexpected challenges. This might also depend on your strengths. The fifth and final question here is, what motivates you to reach your goals? We've got achieving personal milestones, learning from experiences, opportunities that come unexpectedly, and encouragement from others. So a number of answers there as well. We've got about 123 responses out of 191. So keep those responses flowing in here. And in the meantime, I'd love to get an emoji for how you are feeling today. Give me an emoji, send that through the React. I want to see what your mood is right now. We've got some thumbs up, wow, a lot of thumbs up, a lot of happy faces, some celebrations there. Keep those coming. Okay, Andrea's having too much fun. Some hearts, a lot of options here. Vanessa, I like your hands in the air. Brianna is getting in the Santa Claus mood. Isabella is a turtle as usual. Hey, I see you, Isabella. Okay, Rosales, you've got the umbrella. I feel like that's how we're all feeling a little bit. So love seeing all these come in. Awesome. All right. We are going to go ahead and get started in just a moment. Oh, Berta, I loved that frog. Thanks for sharing that one. I don't think I've seen that before. So as we get into this, remember to keep your mic off unless you're speaking. We have a big group here. And remember to keep your camera on so that we can see your faces. And if you have any questions about attendance, please send that to the YC staff. I have a number of people who've reached out to me. Please send it to YC staff. Johanna is here on the call. So you'll see YC staff, Johanna. She's the right person to connect with about attendance. I'm going to end the poll here, and I want to share some of these results. So we've got the first answer. The most common one was all of the above, a mix of slow and steady steps that lead to progress, setbacks that teach lessons, and some unexpected opportunities in there. So I love that. The next is, where are you at on your entrepreneurial journey? We've had a lot of people in here interested in starting one. I am curious, there's a small handful of people here who have already started a business. Is anyone who's already started a business willing to share what they've started? There's like 13 of you. Who's got a business? Anyone willing to share that they started a business? Michelle, have you started a business?
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
what
right
is it?
now I do nails. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Do you do it mostly for family, for friends? Do you open it up to everybody?
I do everybody, family, friends, and even new people. So,
Awesome. That's great. What made you want to start that?
to be honest, I've always done nails since I was in elementary. Maybe fourth grade, I started doing my own, getting press-ons, painting nails, and just putting them on. And then that's when I switched to actually um acrylic and stuff. So, yeah.
I love that it started from a passion. You started doing all kinds of different things, experimenting with new things, and just leveling up little by little. So thank you for sharing that, Michelle. Thank you for the nails, Johanna. And then I know there's a few more of you who've started something. The third answer, though, I'm going to go through a few more of these just to help everybody see where we're at today. When you fail at something, how do you usually respond? The number one answer here was changing their approach. I do love that people asking for advice. I know that I tend to be someone who changes my approach and try differently, but I almost always wish I had asked for advice first. The next one here is which skill do you think will help you the most when facing unexpected challenges? This one was spread out quite a bit, but adaptability and patience are both big ones. And I think that's a really good point. The next one here, what motivates you when you to reach your goals? The number one answer here is achieving personal milestones. And I love that self-driven idea of like, I set a goal for myself and I want to nail it. Well, today you are going to hear from a serial entrepreneur. Erik Huberman is here to speak to us tonight, and he has an incredible story. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him before he kicks us off, but he currently is the founder and CEO of Hawk Media, and it is a marketing company. So they create marketing for all kinds of things. You'll know a lot of these brands. He's worked with Red Bull, Verizon, he's worked with Casamigos, with Funko, he's worked with Crocs. So you know the companies he's working with. He's done some incredible work, but he's doing this after having started and sold multiple e-commerce companies. And so he did that before he turned 26, showing that he is somebody who, like, no matter what age you are, and you all are in high school right now, you can be starting whatever, whenever, and going at it. So he's going to be talking about a few things like that tonight. And I do want to bring up also that he has been very recently featured actually in the LA Times for the incredible work his company is doing. So recently they were really highlighting kind of the long game and the long-term effort it takes to be building something like this. He is one of the fastest growing companies in Los Angeles. And I believe the feature was largely about AI and that branch of the company and how they've been working on that over time and building that over time and how that's really launching and taking off now in such an incredible way. So really having that focus on the long game and everything he's doing has been all like there's been so much growth that they've experienced. It's really incredible. So we are excited to have him here today to talk about the nonlinear path to success. Erik, I'd love to hand it over to you to introduce yourself and kick us off.
Sure. Thank you all for having me. And just to be clear, I'm going to open the chat. Where is the chat? I thought I could open the chat. I have the poll open, but why don't I see chat?
Yeah.
Oh, there it
Uh,
is. Cool. We're good. So yeah, I'm here for you guys. So feel free to interrupt me, send messages, ask questions. I will go into this in my story, but the reason I'm here, the reason I've had success is my exposure to people that are entrepreneurs and people that took their time after building businesses to actually show me how it was done, starting at a young age and really just opening my eyes to this being an option. It's not the only option. It's very much not for everyone. I had two college freshmen shadow me last year, and basically I tried to show them like a typical, view of one of my days at this point in my career. And at the end of the day, I was like, "Any questions? I would love your thoughts." And they both said, "We do not want to be entrepreneurs. Thank you for the day." I was like, "Perfect." So I say this knowing that like there's going to be a lot of you that hear what I've done and what I'm doing and have zero interest in it, and that's okay. And for those of you that do, that's, frankly, where I hope to reach are the people like me that, have this inkling in the back of their mind and go, "Oh, this is an opportunity. This is something I can do." So to take it all the way back, I was born in LA, born at Cedars Sinai, and grew up in West LA, or not really grew up, was in West LA till about 6 years old. And my dad was in the trash business. His dad owned a junkyard in Montebello. And then he turned that into helping with a lot of the waste management for LA. And because he did a good job with it, the city of Oxnard asked him to move up there and do it for them. And at the time, it was right after the 92 LA riots, and that you probably all heard of. And we had our house was robbed while we were home, and a few things had gone wrong here. And we were like, my mom was, I was 6, my sister was 4. And my parents were like, we could move closer to Oxnard and get out of here. And it just doesn't feel great right now. And so took the job, we moved, and I grew up in Ojai, which is a small town up by Santa Barbara. And my dad ended up being a pretty successful guy, but was so scared that I'd be some spoiled kid. He reminded me from 8 years old when he started making money on that I get nothing and it's his money and I need to go figure out my own thing. So at 6, he had already started seeding this. And so I went around my house without my parents there and put a bunch of their things in a trash bag, things I decided they didn't need anymore, which was like a couple used golf balls, some clothing hangers. I think some socks were in there. And I put it in a trash bag and I walked door to door in our neighborhood trying to sell my parents' stuff to our neighbors, which, to be clear, for like 5 cents per thing. But it was like I literally just decided I'm going to go do door to door sales because my dad says I don't get any of his money. So I need to go figure out how to make money. Fast forward 2 years later, the only other Eric I knew of is a guy named Eric Clapton, who is a famous guitarist, if you don't know him, like from the 60s, 70s. And so I decided, well, if he's Eric and I'm Eric, I need to learn how to play guitar because that's going to be what I'm supposed to do. So I went to my dad and said, hey, Dad, I needed to buy an electric guitar. And my dad's line to me verbatim was, great, get a fucking job. And sorry for the language, but literally how it was. And so at 8 years old, and I say this all because it was great in a sense because I didn't take that as like if you heard a parent say that to an 8-year old even now, any of you, you'd be like, what are you talking about? But I was 8 and didn't know any difference. So I went, okay. And I started trying to sell lemonade on the side of the road. But I would only make like a couple bucks a day selling lemonade. I'm like, I needed $150 to buy this guitar. It's going to take way too long. And the Beanie Baby craze. If you guys know Beanie Babies, they've had a lot of like Netflix stuff about them now, but like the beanbag animals, they got really crazy popular, kind of like Labubus, like really similar. And so I went, well, this is dumb. Like, why do people care so much about this? But and even since they do, I'm gonna go get a few and I'm gonna sell them. And so I started buying the Beanie Babies I thought people would want. And at 8 years old, I ended up going to a few trade shows with the Beanie Babies I got, and I sold them and I made like $4,000. And so I bought the guitar. I also bought a BMX bike because at that point that was like a big thing. And I had put money away for a car. And that was my first like entrepreneurial little journey. But it was like this thing that I implore all of you to learn. It's never too late to just go and try to make money and not make money because someone wants to pay you for a job, but to like go find a way to create value that someone wants to pay you because you created that value. So like the difference I'd say is someone hiring you to go mow lawns that they found you. Like you're going to go work for a gardener and that gardener is going to bring you along and pay you 10 bucks an hour or 15 bucks an hour to mow lawns, whatever. Or going door to door and getting people to actually hire you to be their gardener. Like being like in this case, going and finding Beanie Babies that I thought other people would find value more than I had to pay for them and then flipping them and figuring that out. And this is like in the early days of eBay and like all that, like just started. But actually, no, there was no eBay. We were selling in like I think the classified section of the newspaper once a week I would like submit to. Because this was, let's see, when 8, 9 years old, I was born in 86. So yeah, it was 94, 95. So yeah, so that was my first glance. Then when I was 12, I got into music, and at 12 years old, I realized I wasn't that good. Like, I played guitar. I'd been playing guitar since I was 4 years old. I got my electric guitar at 8. I kept playing, and all of a sudden, all my friends started playing, and they were all better than me immediately. So, like, I don't know if any of you have this experience, but like, you really love music. You want to be a musician of some kind or get into music, and then you realize, well, maybe I'm not that good at this. Like, I can love something, and it's not natural, and I'm not that good. So, it can be a hobby. And I realized that, so I was like, but I want to be in the music business. So I tried to start, this is really early days in the internet. I tried to start an e-commerce site for music equipment. This was when Amazon only sold books. So everybody was launching their e-commerce site for something. I was like, I'm going to launch the music e-commerce site. I was 12 years old. And so I called all the major music companies like Fender, Gibson, Ernie Ball, and got them to all sign me up as a reseller and give me their catalogs. I learned from a friend a trick. My voice hadn't dropped yet, so I pretended to be my own secretary. And so I'd call them and say, I think the name he gave me was Janie Smith. So I was Janie Smith, Erik Huberman's secretary, and work for guitarmon.com. It was MON. And I got all the catalogs, got signed up. And then when I went to order, they said, okay, but we need your seller's permit number. I didn't know what that was, but I went and figured it out. And turns out that a 12-year-old cannot apply for a seller's permit. So I went to my dad and said, Dad, I'm launching an online music company and I need you to sign off on a seller's permit for me and get me a license. And my dad's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm like, well, there that goes. So that never actually launched or happened. Why I share this? I built the website. I learned how to talk to all these, like I got over that hump of like, even Michelle, when I was coming on, like, I work with Crocs and, all these different companies, Funko, et cetera. I quickly got over the hump of like, like that's not a big deal. You can talk to anybody. They're all just other people. So like I talked to, the head of sales at Fender because they thought I was a secretary for some guy starting a music business. All they wanted to do is sell more product. They're like, yeah, great. Who are you? I don't really care. Here's our catalog. You want to buy our stuff from us? Go for it. And you learn like all this stuff is actually pretty simple. And it really just takes taking that leap and trying it. And you learn so much by just going and doing. They talk about you learn a lot from failure. I tend to say you learn a lot more from success, but don't be afraid of failure. It's going to happen. You're going to fail your entire career on small levels, but there's a great Chinese proverb about this it's the will see proverb that you can Google it after this, but I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but it's the idea of you don't know where this is going to end up until you actually reach the end, which we don't know when the end is. So it goes into like, a man has a son, and everyone goes, "Oh my God, you're so lucky you have a son." This is again China, ancient Chinese, and so they're like, "You had a son, he's going to take on your legacy." And the father goes, "We'll see." And then the son grows up, and I forget. I'm again butcher it, but he ends up breaking his arm, and they're like, "Oh my God, now you have a handicapped son that's so bad, like you poor thing." And he goes, "We'll see." Week later, war breaks out in China, and the army comes in and drafts all the able-bodied men, but not his son because he has a broken arm. And they go, "Wow, you're so lucky that he had a broken arm." And he goes, "We'll see." Think about that when you're going through any failure. It might not be, and I will get into where that really hit for me too. So, anyways, didn't launch the music company. High school, I really learned. Actually, take a step back. Right when that happened, a friend of mine's dad did something very similar to this. He actually took my eighth grade class uh, every Wednesday for 8 weeks to a different local business and had us meet with the owner. So it was like the local grocery store, the local bank, actually a small local video editing company that fast forward 20 years later sold to Microsoft for $3 billion called lynda.com. But it was like 13 people in a little above a Radio Shack in Ojai that when we met them. And so we met all these entrepreneurs. And what that did for me, which is hopefully what this is doing for some of you, is like, oh, this is an option. Like everybody talks about how you're going to get good grades, get a good degree, you'll get a good job. But life doesn't only have to be about getting a good job. Sometimes you can create that job. And understanding that and understanding that you could go down that path, it is much harder. And I'll get into that. It is a much more demanding, harder way to go. And it's also more rewarding generally. So the mantra I say for entrepreneurship that I think is the core mantra is work like most won't, so you can live like most can't. But neither one goes away in that. You're going to have to work like most won't, and there's going to be years where you're not living that great. But if you grind through, I do believe hard work, if you're smart enough, and I don't mean you have to be, a genius. You're just smart enough to learn from your mistakes and make good decisions. And if you made a bad decision, move on quickly. And then you work really, really hard, you will separate yourself and have a level of success. And that's what entrepreneurship creates. Now, if you don't want to work that hard, you don't have to. You can get a job, you can work for someone else, and you can go to sleep at night, as my stepdad used to say when I was going down the entrepreneurship path. It's like sometimes it's nice to just go home and turn it off because it's 6:49 at night right now. When I hang up here, about 130 emails I have to answer before I go to bed, after I put my kids to bed, and get dinner somewhere in there. And that's typical. So work my butt off, but I also spent the past 9 days in Cabo San Lucas at the house we have down there. So like you get the balance of like the really, really fun, but you also have to put in the work. So fast forward, I learned that watching these business owners. And I also, again, I had a dad that was an entrepreneur. I had a grandfather that was an entrepreneur. I kind of just took it for granted of like, this is probably what I'll do. So in the meantime, I'm going to learn. So my high school and college years and most of my 20s was about, I want to learn everything I can so that I prepare myself to when I really figure out what it is I want to do with my life. And so I I worked as a busboy at a restaurant, and then I broke my arm, and I didn't get I never got back to working there, which, by the way, is illegal, but I wasn't going to chase it down too much. And then I ended up working in the local health food store in Ojai for, I think it was 8 months. And when I started at minimum wage, which back then was 7.25 an hour. And I was told that within 6 months I'd get a raise. 6 months in, I'm training people that are starting at 10 bucks an hour. So I'm the one training them and they're making 25% more than I am. And finally, I go to the GM of the store who I knew and was like, hey, like you told me I get a raise. Now I'm like actually teaching people to do my job that are making way more than I am. Like this doesn't seem to make sense. And what, long story short, what turned out was my manager, not the GM, the general manager, but the manager that was in between us, was taking credit for all my work, giving me all his work, and then telling the GM I was doing nothing while he was just hanging out. And I sat there going, I can have an argument right now with this GM, but what's really going to happen? Am I going to get the manager fired? Is he going to believe me or him? I'm like, you know what? It's cool. I said, I think this will be my last week. You let me know when, yeah, I'm happy to leave today, or I can see through the week or the next 2 weeks. I want to leave on the right terms, but I'm done. And that was the one of the biggest pushes into entrepreneurship for me because that moment I realized what if I ever have a job that's not me running the company, it needs to be something that my work speaks for itself. Because if my future is determined by someone else's opinion of me, that doesn't fly for me. And that to me became what I see as a much bigger risk than entrepreneurship. I've watched it. A boss can have a bad day and fire someone. A boss can make a stupid decision and screw up a big deal, and now a bunch of people lose their jobs. Like, there's a lot of reasons to not want to just work for someone else and hope that they make the right decisions. Again, there's a temporary peace of mind, and there's almost this like illusion of safety. But at the end of the day, like, because you don't have to be the one to make that decision, but you're still going to be a victim to what decision is made. So in that world that we live in, I wanted to control my own destiny, and I knew that right there. And so. That was my junior year of high school, I think. I worked in a real estate office on Wednesdays my senior year just to learn that space a little bit. And then went to college. And I went to University of Arizona, had a ton of fun. It's a party school, just gonna admit it, and it was super fun. But I learned a lot about first off, I had to learn how to be social. By the way, my graduating high school class was 11 people. So I think that's important to share. So again, Ojai, small town and small school. I did not have the social skills. I was a weird kid. So we all were. It was like a little hippie school in Ojai. So I went to Arizona, had to figure out how to be a normal human being my freshman year, which helped and I feel like I got somewhat there. And then but during the school year, I focused on schoolwork, but every summer I focused on, I'm going to get a job that I could learn something. First summer was in a real estate office, learned what I needed to. And then I learned something. I heard this over and over again from the most successful people I knew. And I think it's completely true. Learning how to sell, getting all over any inhibition to sell is one of the most valuable things you can do in your career. Not because you need to get into sales, but especially you want to start a business or build a business, you're going to have to sell your company to customers. You're going to have to sell it to employees to come work with you. You're going to have to sell to investors if you need to raise money. Like you're always going to have to sell. If you're working for someone else, you have to sell yourself into a job. And like I have a friend that tries to push people to do this all the time, but it's like, go to Starbucks and just try to negotiate for the price of the coffee. They're not going to do it, but get over the uncomfortable nature of like hearing no. Who cares? When they tell you it's $5 for your coffee, offer them three, see what happens. They're going to look at you like you're crazy and be like, no. But the more you do that and get over that inhibition, and the more you like just try these things, it is funny, by the way. I've done it just for the hell of it. And like again, because you get over the idea of like, why are they laughing at me? Who cares? Like I'll never see them again. Even if you will, who cares? Move on. And these things really train you to then when you're actually ready to build something, you'll have no worry. Again, back to like having no fear of calling Fender and Gibson because a lot of people won't. A lot of people have this fear of authority and this fear of something bigger that, when you end up in the room with the really successful person or the potential client or the person that could employ you and you treat them like a god, it doesn't sit very well versus you treat them like a peer. Like I'm here to help you and you're here to pay me. This is an equitable trade. And I'm here to do a great job for you as your employee and you're here and you're going to pay me really well because of it. That's what they want to hear. And then again, if you build your own company and you're looking for clients or customers, same thing. But you can say that with confidence because you're used to talking to people on this on an equal level versus not, which you learn by doing these things. So second summer, I wanted to go be a used car salesman because I heard it was the hardest thing that everybody hates used car salesmen. It's like, perfect. I want to go do that, not for career. I just want to try it because I want to go do the hardest thing where nobody likes you and you're trying to sell cars. It sounds like the one that I'm going to learn the most. But no car dealership was going to hire me for 3 months, which in hindsight made sense. At the time, I was like, why not? Like, I can learn and I'll sell a car or two. It's like, that's not what we're training and hiring people for. But there's a company called Cutco that you might have heard of that recruits young college kids to go sell kitchen knives door to door. And so they like I was looking for a sales job. They flyer everybody. They try to hire every college kid when they're home from college for the summer. And I got a flyer and I signed up and I was like the exact archetype they want because I just wanted to learn sales. I knew the money would come, but I was like, I'm all in on your program, which meant I worked really hard. I grinded all summer, but I ended up making like $25,000 my sophomore year of college in a summer selling kitchen knives because I just followed everything they did and grinded. And what that taught me was, again, kind of a reinforcement of I know how I can make money now. Like I can always find a sales job. It was commission only. They didn't pay me a salary. So I was like, I can find a job that'll give me commission to sell something. And now I know how to sell. And so I got that done. The I then signed up to be, and I just realized what time it is. I need to rush through this a little more. Signed up to be a manager for their one of their offices, and I went through an entire training. They flew me all over the country during my junior year of college, but then I got a call in April of my junior year from my dad's friend's son that wanted to start a storm drain filtering company and needed a partner that could sell. I was like, I'm in. I'm gonna, because again, my priority was learning. I knew I could sell, I could make a shit ton of money, excuse my French, selling knives. I knew I was confident in that, but I wouldn't learn anything. I already knew how to sell knives. So now I'm going to go jump in and learn how to filter storm drains and sign up landowners that like they passed a law in California that you get fined $75,000 if you didn't filter a storm drain. Big thing I learned there is that was a law written, but there was zero enforcement agency. So there was a law, but like nobody to actually fine anyone. So when we went out trying to sell this thing, everyone's like, no, like we're not paying you to filter. Like no, we literally got chased off. I remember we went to the Gold's Gym in Oxnard and the GM came out with a broom and chased us off the property. Like straight up run off the property. And by the way, I also selling kitchen knives. I got attacked by a dog at someone's house and the dog bit at me. I moved my leg. He grabbed my pants and ripped my pants clean off me. And I still stayed and finished the sales pitch with the kitchen knives. And then they did not buy anything, but they paid for my pants. All these things I share because you got to go through this stuff because I've now gone through a lot bigger things than that with the size of company I have. And the more you go through these things and you build grit and you realize this is normal, it goes like it gets easier. And so uh did the storm drain thing. At the end of the summer, I had the option. I was thinking about dropping out of college. It's like right when this is when Mark Zuckerberg just dropped out and Facebook blew up. Like it was right in that era. This was summer of 2007. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, I don't want to filter storm drains the rest of my life. So I thanked my partner. I did get us a few big contracts. I was like, good luck. I wrote all our legal. Like, by the way, how I figured out how to do our legal contracts was I downloaded an alarm age. I was like, what's a similar business to this, like kind of maintenance? I'm like, oh, alarm companies. So I downloaded Dragon Chuck Alarm Company contract, changed it to our name, changed alarm to storm drain, and just edited it on my computer. And now we didn't have ChatGPT. Now you could just have ChatGPT make it. You'd be done. So like that, I literally played lawyer at 20 years old trying to start this thing. So we did it. We got a few contracts. It turned into a multi-million-dollar company. And I just left it to my partner and said, thank you. I'm out. I'm not going to do this anymore. I then went into real estate out of college the next year, which by the way, I didn't know what I wanted to do until like February, March, right before I graduated in May. I was like, I got to figure this out. I applied, I got a job at a real estate agency and I had to spend the summer getting my license. And I started one day, my daughter's joining us, by the way. I promised her she could hang. Um, I started 1 week to the day before the entire banking industry collapsed in 2008, the whole Great Recession. So that year, my first year out of college back in LA, I made $350. And I started scrambling and the friend's dad, who did that eighth grade tour of all the local businesses, reached out to me and said, I've been admiring your entrepreneurial spirit for a while. His son was the drummer in my band because I did play guitar. I wasn't that good, but we still had a band in high school and we played at local bars and coffee shops and stuff. And he's like, he's still pursuing music. There's got to be a way to help these independent artists learn how to make money being a musician. I wrote a full business plan because I had nothing else going on and sent it to him. He disappeared for 3 months and I just focused on real estate. And then he called me basically a year into real estate and said, hey, I've raised us $1 million. You're the CEO. You're going to make minimum wage and own 5% of the company. And I was like, again, I think minimum wage then was $10 an hour. So I was like, he's like, you in? Like, that's better than $350 a year. Yes, I'm in. And I ended up building a music company that was ended up with 15,000 musicians learning business coaching from some of the biggest record executives, again, rushing through this. But then I realized about 2 years in, it was never going to be a big business. It was making money, but barely. And like we had like 6, 7 employees. We could pay their salaries, but not great salaries. I was like, okay, this is not going to be, I was 24, but I was like, my kids won't get to college on this. Didn't, there it is. Thank you, David. And so my kids won't go to college on this. Which I was 24. I had my first kid at 35, but that's how I was thinking back then. So I left and ended up starting a t-shirt subscription company called Swag of the Month that took off. And in a year and a half, we sold it, which, by the way, to be clear, I sold it for just enough to pay off all the debt I got myself into working $350 my first year and then minimum wage for 2 years living in LA. And then another year and a half of minimum wage when I had to pay myself. That's all I could afford to pay myself on Swag of the Month. And then I racked up a credit card debt. I paid it all off when I sold it. So now I'm completely broke and I just sold a company, but I have no money and no job. And oh, and I bought my apartment lease was up. So I couldn't even sign a lease because I had no income. And so I'm like, yeah, but debt free. Exactly. So it was a weird place because I was like not underwater anymore, but I was completely broke with no income. And I was like, but I don't want to get back into debt. For 3 weeks, I remember at that time it was the most stressful 3 weeks of my life because I didn't know what to do. But quickly after 3 weeks, I got offered the head of biz dev at Live Nation, head of e-commerce at Warner Music, and to go join this little incubator called Science and consult for them and help them launch this company called Dollar Shave Club. And all of them were offering me $100,000 a year. I had made minimum wage. I was 25, so minimum wage for 3 years after making $350, and all of a sudden I get 100 grand a year, and I was wealth at that point. I found myself wealthy. I bought a BMW, got a great place, like I was stoked, and I did that for a year. I helped that incubator, and then I helped them launch a women's activewear brand called Ellie that's still around. This was in 2012, 2013. And we sold that to Bally Total Fitness, who then tried to recruit me to work for them. And I said, no, but I'll consult. And we went back and forth on this argument. And I'm trying to give you guys, there's a lot more to go here, and I'm happy to come back. But I realized I could make a lot of money at that point, even though I was only 26. I could people were willing to pay me a lot more to consult than they would ever hire me on a salary. And all of a sudden, that first year, I'd built in on paper, I'd built and sold two e-commerce companies after also launching a music company. I was only 26, but I had a ton of experience in this digital world where nobody else did. And so fast forward, that was mid 2013 is when I sold Ellie, which by the way, I didn't make that much money on there. It was owned by Science. And then by the end of that year, I had 8 companies paying me just personally consult about $35,000 a month. And I hired an assistant to help me. And that's when I went, this is crazy. So many people need more help than just me. I'd try to find agencies to help them. There weren't that many good agencies. And so I used that 35,000. I was still used to living off like 3 grand a month. So I took the rest of it, the 32 grand, and I hired 7 people to come work with me and built out a team and went, I'm not going to increase my personal expenses. I'm not going to go buy nice shit. I'm going to use this to reinvest in this business. And so I hired 7 people, turned it at my little marketing SWAT team. That was the beginning of 2014. And that 7 people now, almost 12 years later, is over 200 people. We've worked with over 6,000 companies. We also have a venture fund where we're on our second fund that has $20 million. We're going to raise another $50 million next year. We've got a financing arm. I don't even know how much we financed there, but probably around 50 million as well. We have an AI system we've built. I'm an owner in the LA women's soccer team. It really takes off when it takes off, but yeah, again, tried to rush through this a little bit. I want to have time for questions. But the real key here is like that staying focused in the beginning, learning as much as you can, and just working. Because that's one thing I always back to my dad, because I saw another comment on that. When I went into real estate, I was bragging to him. I'm like, yeah, I'm the first one in the office. I'm the last one to leave. I'm getting into the office at like 6 a.m., working all day. I leave at like 7 p.m., turning off the lights. And my dad's response was 6 a.m., huh? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, what's wrong with 5 a.m.? Like, fair enough. All right. So very thankful to that question that in terms of him getting a job, but also just the chip on his shoulder. He was a little brutal about it at times. Like he literally said the verbatim to me when I was in uh, sophomore in college, you got to figure your shit out and get off the family tit. That was a line from him. So like, just to be clear, dad was harsh, but it put a chip on my shoulder that still to this day, when I find myself getting a little lazy, I have this like voice. It's the angel and devil thing. Like my dad's voice in the back of my head, just going like, "Get up, go back to work." And one last note on that, and then I'll go into more questions. When I started Hawk, about 2 months in, again, I had this team of 7 people, and the most important person on the team from like an execution side, the guy that was managing the most work and like helping the most customers, emailed me on a Monday morning at like 3 a.m. and said, "Hey, Erik, long story short, I fell in love. Asked the girl where she wanted to go in the world. She said Hawaii. I'll be working remote this week." Now, just to be clear, in 2014, working remote wasn't a thing. Like that now is more normal. Then it was like, "What are you doing?" And so, but I knew this guy was sensitive, so I couldn't be like, "Get your ass back in the office." I had to be like, "Okay, but just make sure to handle your stuff." And he's like, "No, no, of course, I'm on top of all of it." And then uh, the next day, I get a call from all of his clients, half my business he was managing. So, like, half the money that was paying for all the, I had signed a lease that I was nervous about because it was a 1 year lease and I didn't even, we were only a month in and like, could we afford this? All those kind of things. The next day, all his clients call me and they're all pissed because I haven't heard from him. So I'm calling him, calling him, calling him. Finally, I get a hold of him at like 3 p.m., which is noon in Hawaii. He's just waking up. And I'm like, "Where the hell are you?" He goes, "Erik, I'm going to stop you right there. This is the happiest day of my life. I'm getting married today. I need you to just respect that. I'll be back next week." And hangs up on me. And I looked at the guy that ended up becoming my business partner and was like, "What do we do?" He's like, "I'm going to go learn how to do his job because we can't rely on that. And I'll figure this out and we'll fix it tomorrow." And I get in my car and I call my dad to vent to him because, again, business owner thought I could like commiserate. And I'm like, tell him this whole story. By the way, it was like the 5 minute version because at the time it was like the biggest thing that's ever happened to me. And I tell him this whole thing and he goes, "Yeah, that shit happens all the time. I got to run. I'll talk to you later," and hangs up. And it was like back to the point, like you want to go through those hard things because now I know exactly what he's talking about. We That became a mantra at the company. That shit happens all the time because I don't care how big your company is. If you're, Apple and Tim Cook right now, you're dealing with geopolitical problems with China and tariffs. Like there is not a point in running a business that it just gets easy and it just goes. You're always going to be dealing with stuff, and the sooner you can accept that and get used to it, and then in some ways enjoy it, the better you're going to be off. Last thing I'll leave with, and I'm going to answer all the questions, is if you're going to start a business, remember businesses fail for two reasons. Number one, you get underwater financially. So you take out too much debt and too much loans. I'd avoid it as much as you can. Or you take on investors and you can never pay them back. And then it becomes like, why am I doing this? So that's number one. Financial, you get underwater. You sign a lease you can't afford, those kind of things. Number two, you give up. That's it. Only two reasons. So if you don't get underwater financially, the only reason you're going to fail is you give up because you can always run a smaller and smaller business. You can have one customer, or you can have no customers and you have to go grind and find one. You can always run a business as long as you don't find a way to burn out. So if you decide to build something, or for those of you that already had, in that the 13 of you, just remember, don't get underwater financially and make sure that you find a way to make it fun for yourself and sustainable. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And that answer in terms of success, slow and methodical, 100% would be is what the choice I'd pick on that. There's a lot of luck, there's a lot of other things, but the longer you can sustain, the more luck hits you. All right, now I'm going to try to get through these questions. If you could go back, is there anything you would change or do differently? No, I'm really happy where I ended up. I'm sure, like, the grass is always greener. If I had bet on a different type, like agencies are really hard to build and it's really competitive, I might have been better off in tech, or I might have done something like, but I don't even think that way because here I am and what's the point? So like I don't think so, because to make like the conceited statement of like I could have built a tech company that's way bigger than this, I don't know that I could. This worked out really well and I'm really thankful for what I chose. Do you wish that your dad would give you money when you were younger? No, because I actually just talked about this. My 23rd birthday, My dad again was successful. Once in a while, I'd get to go to a nice dinner with him and stuff like that. I went to a steakhouse called Boa here in LA. There's one in West Hollywood and Manhattan Beach and Santa Monica. And I really wanted to go for my 23rd birthday. This is like the brokest I was too. I had $200 left on my credit card limit, and that was it for the rest of the month. And I was like, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna make sure I don't spend more than $200, and I'm gonna figure it out. But I'm taking a date, and I'm going to Boa for my 23rd birthday. And I went, and I was doing mental math while we're ordering, and I was like, okay, we spent 180. I'm good. And the bill comes and it's 240 bucks. And my heart just sank. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know. Like, I might have to wash, all the jokes of like, I have to go back and wash dishes now. I don't know how this works. And I don't know why the credit card cleared and let me get away with it. But like that point and going through that and also realizing like it's okay. Like I was at a point where like the last week of the month I was opening my fridge and putting like ketchup on a piece of bread and some cheese and I survived and it was fine. And so I having that in the back of your head allows you to take bigger risk because if my dad just gave me everything, I think I would have been really afraid. I wouldn't have known my own capabilities. Like the idea of failure wasn't that scary. Like, you mean I go back to being completely broke? It's really not that bad. Like, unless you're really caught up in material shit, I figured it out. I was okay. There was actually sort of a simplicity to it. So I'm glad he didn't. Who are the people you would say helped you out the most in your journey and in what way? Oh, there's a lot of people. Nobody gets there alone. The story I have for this is there were two guys that were the head of, or the two sales guys at an agency that only worked with the biggest brands when I was starting. So every small brand they wouldn't take, and everybody wanted to work with them, and they would just send me the intros. Like, we can't work with you. Sorry, talk to Eric and Hawk. Talk to Eric Hawk. Like 6 months in, they go, we have no idea if you have any idea what you're doing or any good at what you do. We just really like you. So we're just going to keep sending you stuff. And hopefully we find out at one point you were really good. And by the way, one of them ended up coming and working for me after that. But like that happened a lot. And what I found was you do the right thing, you're honest, you have high integrity, you're straight with people. It goes so far and it gets you so much support. I mean, the list of people that have gotten me here, like I couldn't even start. It is massive. So there is no self-made. It's BS. It's definitely a ton of people. My dad is a role model, not a mentor, because he hated giving advice. Back to the point, like I got to go talk to you later. But watching how he operated was very much a cheat code because he was successful. But there are a lot of other people that were much more direct. What motivated you most of your journey? Kept you working hard? Reminding myself, work like most won't, so you can live like most can't. I always had a level of confidence that like this will work out. Here's a really easy one. There's a lot of people here. Okay, so there's a survey done where would you rather work 25 hours a week and make 125,000 a year, or work 70 hours a week and make 300 grand a year? So I'm trying to think about the bet. Can we do a poll actually? Is that easy
Hey,
to do?
Joanna, can you set up a poll real quick? All right.
So 25 hours a week and you make 125 a year, or 70 hours a week and you make 300. I'm curious what this group indexes versus the general public, because there was a big survey done with this question. And don't lie, I can't see who answered what. Answer honestly. Would you rather work 25 hours, making 125 grand a year? It's pretty good money. Or 70 hours, which, by the way, that's 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, but you're making 300 grand a year.
How are we doing on launching that, Johanna?
Do we have Joanna? Can I do it?
All right. In the meantime, I'm gonna put
All right.
the
Oh,
go ahead.
I'm not an admin. I found the poll button, but it's to see the old poll.
Yeah, I'm gonna put two options in the chat and I want you to like the one
Yeah,
that
there we go.
you can do. So there's
Yeah.
the 70 hours for 300K,
Yeah.
and then the next one is 25. Oops, that goes to everybody. And
Oh,
then
well,
the next one is 25 hours for 150K.
125, 25, 125, or 70, 300. Yep.
Okay, so go
There we
ahead and like the one that you would do. I put in two ones here, 70 hours, 300K, or 25 hours for 125K.
are. Yep. All right. So this is a much harder working group than normal. So just to be clear, now that you guys are playing with this, we've got, about 75-25 right now. They did this to tens of thousands of people, 98.2% of people would rather work 25 hours. So all of you that just answered 70 hours, you're in the 1.8% of people. In this group, it looks like 80% of people. So first off, that's really cool that you're all surrounded by people that really want to put in the work. What I've learned in life is that right there, and I need to scroll back up to the beginning of the questions, but that right there is really the the difference maker. When you talk about the 1%, we've all heard, where the rich 1%, et cetera, turns out that a good majority of those are people that just work their butt off. And I've seen this. I've got my venture fund, which is a ton of millionaires that give me money to go invest their money. What they have in common the most, they are nonstop working. And it's not a bad thing. It's like you can find a way that it all works together so that like you can have fun with it. You can enjoy the work. You're passionate about it. You're doing things that you get to hang out with cool people. Thought I was hanging out right here while I'm talking to you guys. Like it's doable that you can actually live a great life and work your absolute butt off. And I would highly encourage that. So trying to get back to the questions. Um, so that's what kept me working hard was working like most won't, so you can live like most can't. Because I found that that really did play out. What is the number one thing skill you learned about communicating with other people? Trying to give what's something really important here. I'm very direct, and it's always served me. Like I will tell you exactly. I had someone call me today with like, "Hey, they're asking for advice, and they're like, "Hey, we have this idea to create a reality show for our company, and this is what we're thinking of." And I'm like, "Would you watch that show?" Like that's like I think having like, they have actually a cool, unique ability to have a show. I won't blow them up too much, but like I was like, to be real, like that doesn't. Would you act if you didn't have your company? Would you care at all? Because I don't think that they're like, no, that's fair. That's not that good. I'm like, they're like, we'll get more creative. But I've always been about like getting very direct and just telling people exactly how I feel, being very honest. Not you don't have to be rude. You can be direct and still cushion it and be nice about it. But I'm not gonna avoid the hard conversation. Okay, let's not kick the table. Thank you. Not gonna avoid the hard conversation. Um, and I'm gonna be very straight with people because then it also helps with my employees where it's like you don't have to guess what I'm thinking. I'm not passive aggressive. I'm not gonna hide. I'm gonna tell you exactly what I'm thinking so you're not on eggshells. You know exactly where you stand with me. And it makes it easy. These are the things I want you to improve. This is what's wrong. This is going great. Um, do I have any regrets towards your journey to where if no regrets, honestly. Because the good decisions, the bad decisions, they all lead to a place like, I would say the only regret I would live with is I didn't study abroad in college. I think going and spending some time in Europe when you don't have as much responsibility would have been pretty fun. If your dad never pushed you in the work field, would you have wanted to get a job at a young age? Yeah, because I think the only way that would have been uh, sort of not happened is I would have not wanted to work if my dad had just handed me money. Because I wanted to buy stuff, I wanted to do cool things. I wanted my guitar. Like because he wouldn't do it, I needed to do it. And the independence was important too. I'm curious on what those sculptures are and why did you get them? Oh, the Buddha? That was from my aunt and uncle. They had a Buddha in their yard, and that's this chair. That's a Buddha head that was sitting in my aunt and uncle's yard. And then the bell, this house is 100 years old. That bell was sitting on the outside of the house for a long time. So kept the bell. But yeah, just some fun art. Um, how'd you get started on a business? By the way, the irony of Buddha is it's all about a lack of materialism while I'm talking about building a business and capitalism. There's a lot of hypocrisy in that, but there's a lot to learn about Buddhism. I recommend reading up on the basics. Um, and the most basic thing is materialism and wanting and desire is the root of suffering. The idea of like wanting nice things, wanting more than what you have, and not just being happy with what you have is where people suffer. Um, how do you get started in business? Uh, that's a bigger conversation. Take a swing and go try to sell something. Like I would say, again, sales is the best way to start. You learn how to sell something, then you can start to figure out what people want and find something people aren't serving. Whereas there's something that people are missing that they wish they had, and you can bring it to them. How challenging was it? Uh, I don't know if challenging is a word. I work really hard. And I mean that like I work nonstop and I grind and like anyone like I have 200 employees and they would all say I'm the hardest working person at the company. Still to this day, 12 years in. but I found a way that I enjoy it and I can continue to do it. And the times when I really don't want to, I put enough on my plate that I have to keep going, and you learn the discipline of it too. And they talk about this in sports, in music, in business. Natural ability carries you only so far. By about 25, you better learn discipline and hard work. You got to learn whether, again, if it's sports, you got to be in the gym. Kobe Bryant in the gym before everyone every morning. Like, you want to be the best, you got to put in the work. And that is a big one. Uh, After seeing success in your first company, Hawk, did you consider making a Hawk too? I'm still running Hawk. So until the day someone buys it for a ton of money or I get bored of it, which is really hard to do, I'm going to be running Hawk, I think, for a long time. What's a piece of advice you would give besides those two important things? What's a piece of advice? Just keep swinging the bat. That was the advice my dad gave me. Because he wasn't always a dick. He was also actually a really loving dad. And when I was failing at certain businesses and trying things, he just said, keep swinging. And it's a baseball reference, but if you just keep swinging, like if I told you, if you keep literally swinging a bat, one day you'll hit a home run, you'll have to connect. And if you hit a home run, you'll make $1 million. How long would you swing that bat for? Forever until you do? Welcome to starting businesses. Keep going. You're going to learn stuff with each one, identify things, be smart enough to learn from it, and then keep going. What was the biggest challenge you faced while figuring out who was right to hire for your company? Oh, that's a much longer story, but first group of hires I hired were all like friends and people I already knew. And within 6 months, only one of them still worked for me because I was their friend. They weren't going to work for me very long or very hard. Um, the biggest thing I've learned in general now in hiring is I try to scare everyone away from working for us because I'm like, I'm trying to win here. And like, we're in an era right now where, people in their 20s right now don't like to work very hard as a general, like, again, back to the 98.2% of people would rather work 25 hours. I'm like, then don't work here because you're going to work 70, 80 hours a week, which is, by the way, not true. But I tell them that so that they leave. And we've had people literally cuss us out and leave. Like, who the fuck would work that much and run out of the office? So we try to scare people off because once they're in and they realize it's not that bad and it's a pretty fun place to work, but it's aggressive and they signed up for that, we have a really high retention of people. People love to work with us. We have people that have worked with me since the beginning. And I mean, one of my executives came to me today. A company just offered him double his pay to go to them. And he's like, first off, do you think I can get there in the next few years? I'm like, yep. And he's like, all right, then I want to stay here. Screw them. I'm going to tell him, he's like, I'm going to call him right now. I'm like, I'm serious. I'll get you there, but we got to figure out a plan. It's going to not be just here you go, but we'll get you there. He's like, great, I'm in. And this guy's been with me for 11 years. So he's making a lot of money. He just bought his first house. Like, he's doing great, but he literally got offered double last week. And he's like, he just brought it to me. He's like, I love it here. So that's a big one, is getting people that really are going to be about what you're doing. Do you think you would be where you are today without the obstacles you went through? No, I'd be working in real estate if it wasn't for the Great Recession. I'd probably be selling a few buildings a year. I'd probably make decent money, nowhere near as successful. That's what I was trying to say about the whole idea of like, we'll see. Like, back then, I thought it was the worst thing ever. I failed in real estate, and then I ended up in digital marketing when it wasn't even a thing yet. And thank God. So, do you think college is a necessity? Nope. I think college was a necessity for me. I really think college is important if you need those 4 years to grow up, to learn how to be an adult outside of your parents' house, especially if you're getting into engineering or medicine or something that's not business. But if you're going to go into entrepreneurship, it's not necessarily necessary, but then you better be ready to work a very different pace because you're going to be up against that. Like, I actually do recommend college, but I don't think it's necessarily a necessity. I think that it is a leg up, but there's ways to give yourself a leg up in other ways in those 4 years you spend in college. Excuse me. In the near future, do you see yourself pursuing something different? No, I don't think so. I'm very conscious of how hard, like, my view of it is if you work really hard and you're smart enough, you will be some level of success. How successful is luck. Depends on what timing, what you end up in. Again, if you work hard, you're going to be successful because you're going to separate yourself from 98% of people. But how successful is really luck. And for me, I don't discount how lucky I am that the timing of what I built, that Hawk Media took off like it did. And I don't think that I just start the next thing and it just does the same thing. I'm not that conceited about it. Where were there any points where you faced challenges and you almost gave up? Yes. What motivated me? So emotionally, I wanted to give up. And that's well, again, we don't have that much time, a longer story, but I ended up in a really low point 4 years ago, by the way. Like after I'd built the business, we had a bunch of employees. We ended up at a time where like a few of my executives were lying to me. We burned a bunch of money. It felt like the thing was in a downward spiral and it could go bankrupt. Like it was a bad situation. I fixed it in 3 weeks, to be clear. But the emotional toll of that lasted a year, maybe more, where I woke up every morning dreading what was going to come next at work and worried about the next sort of punch to the face I was going to have while running this business. But I fought that emotion with the rational side that I was like, this is as bad as it gets, and it is actually going to get better. And I like pushed myself through it because I knew it would be, I would regret. I've always run on like not wanting to live with regrets. Hence why that was an easy answer of like, no, I don't really have regrets. I knew I'd regret if I gave up at that point versus spend a couple more years, try to fix it, and then make a decision from there. So that was important. What is something that you wish you could have grew more in before? Managing people. I'm still not great at interviewing people. I'm very much like I have good people around me now, but like it took a lot and I've kissed a lot of frogs, so to speak, to get to this point. I'm still have a hard time like really identifying the best people to work with. And I'm an optimist, so I always see the upside in people versus like, that might not go well because of this. How long did it take you to get where you are at currently? Well, I just turned 39 on Friday, so it took this whole time. What should we do now if we are occupied with school sports? You don't have to, like, again, guys, in high school, I had a job in a health food store or mar supermarket, basically. Like, it wasn't like but I would say if you're really into sports and that's really that important to you, then you should be training every week. You should get good grades and train as much as you can and all in on it. Because those two things are going to necessarily be the things that carry you through life. But to learn the ability to grind, I'm going to keep going back to hard work because it really is a great separator. The people that are made, the guy that just bought his house at my company, I have 200 people working at Hawk right now. We've had probably 13 to 1400 people work in Hawk that don't no longer work at Hawk. He started with me as an intern and now makes well into six figures. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And I have several people that do that that worked for me a decade. Why do they make that much money? Because they deserve it because they work their ass off and they now own houses in West LA. And he came from Southside Chicago and came from nothing, and now owns a house, just had his first kid, and it's rewarding for me too. It's amazing to see that this is something he and was able to create within something I created, but he got there because he works his ass off. He just took paternity leave, and he came in. I was gone last week. He was gone 3 weeks before that, and I came in and was like, he's like told me this is the guy that told me about the job offer, and I was like, no, you just highlighted. Someone's talking about a shower. Um, but yeah, the point is you can make yourself irreplaceable. After working so many jobs, how close would you say you were to giving up based on, I mean, there was no giving up. Like that was just never a thought in my head. You just keep going. I really try like get the emotion out of your head. And also the more you just push those things aside and like don't even listen to the give up, like just take a breath and move forward, the easier that it gets to do. If you guys have heard all the craze about cold plunging now, go and cold plunge, it's so good for your mental health, blah, blah, blah. The reason that's good for your mental health is you're teaching yourself to do something really hard that you don't want to do and you're doing it anyways. There's a lot of science around if you can do that for yourself, you're going to have an easier life. You learn how to manage stress better because you push yourself to stress. So back to the person that asked about sports, Dante, like keep training your butt off. When you're done, when you're exhausted, when you just want to go home, go run some more laps. That will serve you in work and in business more than most of the stuff you're going to learn anyways. And so just learning that grit is big. When choosing people for the company, was it hard? That's what I was saying about like it is hard because I it's really hard. But to your point, back to what I said about the business fails for two reasons: financial or you give up. You got to surround yourself with people you want to work with. I went through a phase where I hired the people that like were on paper the best people, meaning they had the best resumes and backgrounds, but I fucking hated them. And so like I woke up every morning not wanting to work with these people, and it was really big to change to like I want to these are the people I want to work with. This is who I want to be in the trenches with, and that goes a long way. Um,
Eric, We have a minute left, and I love that you are plowing through these questions, but you want to wrap up with one more?
You guys pick. I don't know which question since we have.
Ooh,
By the way, I can give you guys my email and I'm happy to answer any of your emails. So I'll put it in chat right now. But and thank you for the
so
birthday wishes.
yeah, so many of those are rolling in. All right, one question I'm curious about. What is the
My
favorite
daughter.
part of your journey?
Favorite part of my journey, the work-life harmony. I really have found something where like so every year for the past 8 years, I go to a conference in Cannes, France. It's in the south of France, like on the ocean, and I get to it's like the ritziest place in the world, and I get to hang out there for a week, and it makes me money. I do it for work. It is a thing I should do. It's probably the best use of my time professionally, and I have an excuse to go to France every year. I go to a conference, I go snowboarding at a conference. I'm hosting a conference in Whistler, British Columbia in Canada where I'm going snowboarding with 20 entrepreneurs. I do it, I'm going, snowboarding is a big thing for me. I'm going on a heli snowboarding trip I do every year for 10 years. I get to, have her hang out with me. And like, I host a happy hour every month at the office. My daughter comes and meets a bunch of people. And, we joke that she literally like checks the stock market with me in the morning now and jokes like, is it red or green today? I'm like, I can't believe you're saying that. But these are all things of like that harmony and finding something where it's like I can work nonstop and outwork anyone because it lives within the way I like to live too, has been the best. Here, come on. So
You've got a lot of fans of your daughter also in the chat saying like they
yeah,
love her outfit too,
dresses that.
by the way. The princess outfit going
Yeah,
on is great.
she has the wall of princess. This is, by the way, this is biological. Neither my wife nor I are princess people. I don't know, but she loves it. Yeah,
Awesome.
hearts.
Well,
Hearts.
thank you so much. And thank you for joining us too. But thank you so much, Erik. This has been amazing. Really, really appreciate it. And we have dropped just so champions know. We do have a survey that we love for you to submit now, and it is part of your points. So please go ahead and submit that survey. We really care about what you're thinking here. And thank you again, Erik, for everything tonight. Really appreciate it and your time and for sharing just all those lessons and your email and everything. Just thank you
Yeah,
so much.
thank
And
you.
thank you as well. Thanks for showing up today.
Last note on the
Yeah,
email. I'm not ignoring you. If you don't hear from me in a few days, feel free to follow up because I promise that you're not going to get ignored by me. I'm not going to ghost you or anything. So feel free to reach out.
awesome. Well, again, thank you and happy belated birthday. And we'll see you later. Thanks, Erik.
You all have a good night.
Thank you so much. Have a nice
Bye.
night.
Thank you.
Adios.
Thank
Appreciate your
you.
time.